Hi, this is Sophie, Simon and Ben from That Final Scene.
Yeah, we just want to give a quick shout out to our friends at Amazon Music where you can find this very podcast.
So, let's dive in, shall we?
I said it before and I'll say it again.
That scene, that last scene.
What does it mean?
I'm the dude, you know?
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot. That final scene
Starts now.
Hello, and welcome to the final episode of That Final Scene for the year. No, the final ever.
That was almost dramatic.
I've been so excited about it because just before we started recording, Simon and Ben, we were talking about all of the, interesting and new things we could explore for the new year, how we could perhaps better promote the podcast, how we could put ourselves a bit more out there because we're feeling a bit shy. I mean, at least I am. How you guys been?
Pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad. 2023, on the horizon now. But yeah, all good.
What are your resolutions?
Oh, I'm not doing that shite.
Benson's
doing
going to
that.
talk less fast.
Yeah, I'm going to
podcast.
talk less fast. Yeah, I'm going to talk slower. That's my resolution. But it's the 28th of December now, so I can talk as fast as I like for the next 3 days.
I love, and I don't know, I feel like you have a lot of energy. So
Yeah.
do you feel
and
like
that's
it's
normal energy. That's not
Exactly.
me like coked up or anything. That's just how I normally talk. But yeah, no, I need to slow it down.
And we're all drinking tea right now. We're not
That is true.
even, drunk or anything. So
Maybe I just need to get tanked before every podcast and that'll make me slow down.
I've never heard Ben drunk enough that he slurs his words.
Oh, I was drunk enough to slur my words the other day.
oops.
How many Guinness?
6 Guinnesses and no food.
6 Ginwe.
Yeah, I hadn't eaten. I think I had Weetabix in the morning and then went to the pub at lunch and work and stayed in the pub from 1 p.m. till 5. Don't remember getting home from Hammersmith.
Oh,
so,
no.
yes,
That is
excellent
a recipe
times.
for disaster.
Was it a Christmas party?
No. It was we just went to the pub. We were just like, we go to the pub. It's
Nice.
Christmas. And we went to the pub and drank in the afternoon.
What have you been up to, Sophie?
Oh God, I forgot that Winter Wonderland is, happening. So Winter Wonderland for
The British Piss Fest.
That's the perfect way of describing
Masquerading
it.
as a German beer
Yeah,
market.
the Bavarian British Piss
yeah.
Fest.
Yeah, so I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it takes place in Hyde Park every year and basically takes over the entire park, which is a shame.
Did you go?
No. I wanted to go to Regent's Park for a walk because it had just snowed here in the UK. So I was like,
Very
it'd be
different
nice.
experience.
Very
Yeah.
different experience. But then it was so packed in the tube, so I decided to stop in Knightsbridge instead. I was like, I'm just gonna walk from there. Oh my God. Harrods
can't
and
just
Winter
pop in.
Wonderland. That was the horrific
The
experience.
most British experience, Harrods and Winter Wonderland.
Yes. So
Were you singing with an umpire band within 5 minutes?
yeah, I had to. There was no other choice. It was the only way they would let me out. So it was. I feel like I have a bit of a PTSD from that over the weekend.
What about you, Say?
Just been watching some utter guff on Netflix.
Did you
Speaking
start
of-
watching White Lotus?
No, because it's so bloody expensive to get Now TV.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to faff around trying to find a way around it, and then I
Wait.
gave
I mean,
up.
if anyone
you
from
not
Now
get the
TV is
trial?
listening.
Like the one month
Because on my
trial.
Apple TV, it just wants $9.99 a month straight away.
Oh, that's weird. What about you, Sophie? What have you been watching?
Well, I don't want to admit that, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway. Michael forced us to watch Harry and Meghan, the documentary.
Oh, don't blame you. I'm watching it as well.
Good grief.
It's awful.
I kind of hate watched it. I didn't. I have a lot of thoughts. I mean, the way it's produced, very Netflix-like. Like it's so American, like all the cheesy music, in the background. A lot of photo collages coming out of nowhere.
It's
like
Making
the
a Murderer Windsor edition.
Photo collages coming out of nowhere. Casually just swiping past.
It's
With some
literally
sad
that.
piano.
It's like
oh my God.
newspaper headlines fading in from the background.
It's literally that. I don't know. I was never someone who was interested in celebrity, drama stories. I don't know why. I don't know. It just, and you could tell that they put a lot of effort into this to tell their quote unquote story. I'm just not invested enough. And I feel like Michael was more interested because obviously
Was Michael wiping away the tears?
No, I mean, he was more critical,
okay.
I think, compared to me. But obviously, because you guys, he's British, he knows I don't know, I feel like he knows the story behind the royals much more than me.
I think it's interesting that
and what
they've
it symbolizes as well.
released the season of The Crown and this in very quick succession that a lot of pretty much every episode, I would say Prince Harry mentions Diana in some way about like the press and all that stuff. So it's very, because we're kind of like going back and forth. We basically watch an episode of The Crown and then an episode of the Harry and Meghan thing.
I found that fascinating because looking at The Crown season 5, which is incredibly in favor of the monarchy and the royals and Charles, and I felt like season 5.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I thought that, you know, they portrayed Charles as this sort of like modern, you know, like symbol for the monarchy and how like he has his trust. And, like, even the way his relationship with Camilla was portrayed as in like boohoo them, like they are.
Yeah.
It was very much told a certain way. And then you had Diana, who I don't know, in my opinion, she was portrayed as mentally ill, paranoid, at times a bit silly as well. Like she didn't come across someone who was independent. She knew what she was doing. So I felt like season 5 was quite in favor of the royals.
I think I find every episode of The Crown just goes back to being like, oh, okay, so now this person's an arsehole. And it just goes from being like, Charles is an arsehole to Prince Philip is an arsehole to, oh, the Queen's being a bit of an arsehole now as well.
I thought
Which, I'm probably not allowed to say that, am I? Am I
The
gonna get-
Annus Horribilis.
Yeah, there's an episode called Annus Horribilis. There is.
But I thought that was true until the previous season. Like, didn't you find that basically, like, since Dominic West's like version of Charles came over, they've been overly sympathetic towards Charles?
I think they just haven't shown Charles that much. Like, he's not in the 5th season as much. He's not, or at least maybe I'm wrong. This I'd like to know. Look at the screen time, but I feel like he's less prominent in season 5, which is probably a good thing for portraying Charles at that time while he's having an affair and Diana's being chased by the press. It's not a very it's not a strong look. But yeah, I don't really know. I mean, he's never really come across well, apart from maybe that first season he was portrayed in it as like a teenager.
yeah.
But as soon as they introduce the Diana relationship, he's very much portrayed as like
right.
an arsehole.
And with Diana, they're very much focused on, like her, like we don't even know if they're true, but like how paranoid she was and like how, all of her mental struggles. There was no mention of like her activism, for example, or what she did for the war, or more personal relationships. All, that affair that she had with that doctor, like it was just passed over, even though it was a bigger thing. So I don't know, I was a bit disappointed. I mean, I was disappointed for the season for many reasons, but that was one reason. And then you have Harry and Meghan coming out, on the same platform a few weeks later. And I mean, I don't want to say the word propaganda because a lot of things that came out of the documentary, like I'm sure they were valid. And the criticism that, Meghan suffered is disproportionate to the amount of even if she was wrong on 1, 2, 3, 4 things, like all that hate that she received was, obnoxious and ridiculous. But it was so one-sided. So to me, it wasn't I don't think it's fair to say it's a docuseries. It's an interview. It's a 8-hour interview. It's not a docuseries because you're not telling the truth, which is what documentaries do by
they're
default.
They're telling Harry and Meghan's side of the story.
It's that
is to be told after they've signed their $100 million Netflix deal or whatever it was.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is why I thought it was more like I don't know, like opening the doors, tell their story. But you know what they say when in every story there are 3 sides to the story. It was like your truth, my truth, and the actual truth.
Yeah.
I feel like we got their actual story.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know if I would recommend it or not necessarily, but it's very easily watchable, I guess.
Yeah, it's background
Does
television.
she mention Suits a lot?
Yes.
In the first few episodes, Suits in the first 2 or 3 episodes, Suits is mentioned quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
Because
where
it's
he
like about
first
her
saw
career.
her?
Yeah. And one
He was like, oh, she's hot.
No, apparently
no.
he first saw her on Instagram. He slid into her DMs.
What did he
you know?
say in his DM?
I don't know. H here, as they seem to. Every time they refer to him as H, I'm just like, oh god.
every now and then they drop some history lessons on Commonwealth and racism, and it's like, what are you trying to do? It's very it's patchwork in some episodes, which is funny. But at the end of the day, I do think they're quite in love with each other, so I believe that.
Did you see Jeremy Clarkson's tweet?
Where he's apologized for that column he wrote 2 years ago or something. Is that what it was?
Is that not a new tweet? Is that
I thought it was an old one. Maybe I thought it was an old one that's been resurfaced because of. Oh no, maybe not. Actually, maybe it's a column that he wrote about this.
Well, it's not a tweet he wrote. It's his newspaper column. He basically wrote in his column how much he hates Meghan Markle and how he wants to parade her naked through the streets.
What?
Yeah, he compared it to this. The shame scene in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He used that as a comparison.
That's awful.
And his daughter came out and was like, "I do not stand by anything my dad says. This is like this is such a dick thing to say." Yeah. And then people started getting pissed off at her as well, because she's Jeremy Clarkson's daughter, and it's like, but she's come out and said he's being a dick.
He's very clever at, he's a bit like Piers Morgan in this sense, even though he's not like a Piers Morgan, but he uses the media in the same way, and he's very incendiary in what he writes in order to stir up stuff. And then everyone obviously gets very offended and upset, and then that whole hoo-ha creates more publicity for him. So it's a win-win.
Pretty telling that Clarkson's Farm comes out in January. He needed to be on the front pages to publicise Clarkson's Farm a little bit.
He's the guy from Top Gear, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of someone with no context. Okay.
Onto a different topic, but also still a very English topic. I watched Paddington 2 the other day for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Cried like a baby at the end. It was actually after the afternoon of 5 Guinnesses in the pub with no food, and got to the end of it and like wept like a child.
How?
Because it's just such a wholesome ending. It's not even sad. It was so wholesome.
You wept with joy.
Yeah. It's such a great film. It's so good.
It's amazing.
It's funny because when it first came out, I remember there was all these reviews of it being like, it's like 100% on everything. Like nobody expected this film to be that good. And I was kind of like, it's a kid's, like it's a family movie. You can't be that great. It's brilliant. It's so good. It's so funny. Hugh Grant is oddly very funny in it. Brendan Gleeson's in it. He's really funny. Everything about it
Is
is
it basically Love Actually 7?
No, it's more wholesome than Love Actually and a lot less problematic.
Okay.
Yeah, but
it's like
I
about
thought it
the
was
boy
great.
too, maybe.
Ooh,
More like it.
On the wholesomeness level. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fantastic. I would, as someone time with a child, I would urge you to watch it over Christmas. It's a good
It's
good
better
family
than
film.
the first one, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I didn't like the first one. Well, not that I didn't like it, but I wasn't mad on it. I wasn't like, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is such a great film. I thought, it's a Paddington Bear movie. Okay, it's not for me. Whereas the second one, I was like, fucking hell, this is brilliant. This is so good. What else have I been watching? I've been watching Harry and Meghan, finally watching White Lotus season 2.
Nice.
Which I'm not enjoying as much as the first one.
Huh, okay.
I'm not really like, I think what I said in the last episode was that the reason I liked the first season was because you kind of connect and you find the characters really interesting. Most of the people in season 2, I'm just like, oh, you're all just dicks. Like no one here is actually that likable. Even Jennifer Coolidge's character, who I really liked in the first season, is pretty unlikable, at least for the first few episodes. Yeah, I'm just not enjoying it as much.
This is starting to become an HBO signature, like you see with Veep, you see with Game of Thrones, you see with Succession. Like all of the characters are irredeemably like awful.
Yeah,
Isn't that like all of our lives though? We're
all nice people.
We have redeemable qualities. Simon, you just watched the Oppenheimer trailer. Actually, two versions like of the trailer.
Your illicit
cinema
backseat recording version.
Yes, so you watched the official one from Universal, and then you watched a dodgy like camera version that I shared with you. Thoughts, initial reactions?
It doesn't give much away. So it's just a lot of tension build up to the bomb going off, which is what happened.
I guess
I'm presuming the film's going to delve into the psychology behind Robert Oppenheimer's going through all the motions of creating this thing and how he felt about it.
It's an interesting one. It's a trailer for a movie that's about something that actually happened that you probably just have to go and like read a couple of books. Or
I didn't really think the trailer worked very well. It
made
it seem very dark, which is good. Like it was very like ominous.
I think that's all it's trying to do is just show you the
very Nolan trailer.
visuals.
I think historically, like Nolan's trailers have been very mystic-like, and they don't give much away. They're more cryptic than anything. So I like that in that sense. I have a feeling they went with Nolan's like definite version of a trailer in the official version, and that like camera.
It was more
version.
like a clip, wasn't it? It was more like a film.
It was more like a clip, but it does feel like a short film by itself, which is I think this is what Nolan is doing with his trailers. While the one that is playing before Avatar 2, it's more like standard mainstream. Like you see a bit of Matt Damon as well. You see Robert Downey Jr. Like
it feels like there's more like movie dialogue, and you're actually seeing. I think the one they've released to YouTube and stuff is kind of a voiceover, like it's a Cillian Murphy monologue.
What a great accent as well. What a great voice.
Fabulous voice.
What phase of the marketing is it at? Like, because I know that they'll be rolling out like teasers and then a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. How long
Well, I
have we
mean,
got?
it's not out until July,
Oh, is
so
that-
like
yeah.
we probably have another couple of months now before we probably won't see another trailer or any teasers until maybe like March, April
Yeah.
time.
So that'll probably work on me then. So like, the next thing I'll be like, oh, well, I have seen that one now, so I want to see
Yeah.
the next one. So it does make sense, I suppose.
I don't know, the romantic in me says that this is almost like a tribute to Cillian Murphy from Nolan, because they've worked at least twice before, Inception and then Batman Begins.
He's in all the Batmans. He's in Dark Knight. And he's in
but
Dark
he had
Knight
a more
Rises.
prominent role, I guess, in the first one.
And he's in Dunkirk. Yeah,
don't remember.
he's the sailor that gets pulled out of the water in Dunkirk in the Channel.
There you go. So he's almost like the unsung hero of like a lot of Nolan films, but he's never been the main guy. And I feel like Nolan is now just, I don't know, he could easily use like Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, like Emily Blunt, like all of these people to stuff the trailer with A-listers. But it's almost like he's giving Cillian like, there you go, man. Like this is your chance. Like go shine.
Chiseled
Like,
features.
yeah.
I hope so. I mean, I hope
I love that.
I hope the whole film kind of does just allow Cillian Murphy to shine and maybe get like an Oscar nomination out of it or something like that, because he's kind of been in all of Nolan's films. He's kind like water carrier is probably the wrong word for it, but he's consistently very good in roles that are quite like understated, apart from maybe
Supporting,
playing Scarecrow,
yeah.
like in kind of understated supporting roles, especially Inception.
I think that's a really great place to be as an actor.
yeah.
When you
I
can
think
do
that's what he
really good jobs as
I
a
think that's
supporting
what
role.
he wants. He's always wanted. I feel like he was given the opportunity to be more of a, traditional, front. I don't think he wants that.
I assume you've heard him talk about like he auditioned for Batman, and like
Really?
so like before when Christian Bale was obviously auditioning, Cillian Murphy auditioned as well, and I think there is like test footage of him in the bat suit. Like he got to like final 3, I think, and Nolan
Imagine that
basically-
in your interview process.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
You're now at stage 4, bat suit.
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. We're going to put you in the rubber suit now.
His face features are quite, eccentric. He has very, what's the word? The opposite,
Chiseled.
the opposite of forgettable. Like he has a very,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
you remember his
recognizable.
face.
Distinctive.
Yeah,
I think
distinctive,
I think Cillian Murphy does a good job now as well of being. Seems to be quite selective at what he does. He obviously works with Nolan a lot, and he does Peaky Blinders. But then other things he seems to kind of like pick and choose rather than going for like the Marvel blockbuster or something like that. He seems to be making the films that he wants to make.
Strategically picking films like Schwarzenegger did in the 80s and 90s.
Yes, exactly. His Kindergarten Cops is on the horizon.
Very, very strategic.
But yeah, I think he does a good job. I mean, having said that, Peaky Blinders has kind of gone downhill in my opinion. And
It's still being made.
yes, I think there's one season to go and a film.
Oh
is
God,
what they're
really?
doing,
I
I
stopped
think.
a season ago.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the last
There's
season.
I think there's another season and a film to come. I think is what
okay.
they're doing, and then it's done.
But going back to the trailer very quickly, the one thing that I was like, I've seen this before, or I've heard this before, is the music, the score. I was like, this is very like
Run-of-the-mill.
Nolan. Yeah, nothing too, interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
was
it
it-
just sounds like it's
Very standard Nolan scoring.
He could have just taken the music from like the Dunkirk trailer and just
Yes.
put it over it again. He
Because
doesn't need
after
to
a
do
trailer like Inception, it's really hard for him to
Top
better
it.
that. It's,
Yeah.
it's like...
it. I mean, arguably,
order.
after a movie like Inception, it's kind of hard to better
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah.
The art of the trailer.
That's a
is-
debate
yeah.
debate for another day on Christopher Nolan's filmography.
That said, I have a feeling that because I haven't looked into the details, but he's gone into great lengths to emulate like the sound of an atomic bomb going off.
Well-
So I feel like we're gonna see.
Yeah,
something
hasn't
like-
he said they've like basically tried to be as practical
Yes.
as humanly possible?
Yeah.
And that was the joke, wasn't it? Everybody was like, oh, well, he's probably going to build his own
He's gonna
atomic bomb.
nuke-
And he
Oh,
will.
I thought it was going to be like, well, he discovered that snapping some cabbage in his kitchen makes exactly the same sound as a nuclear bomb.
I wouldn't put it
Like
past
Foley,
him.
yeah.
Yeah. When they reveal he's like stabbing a tomato ketchup bottle. Or something.
One to watch on IMAX then, I think.
Yeah, I would actually
Yes.
be well up for that.
Yeah,
if you
let's
want to
do
watch
that.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never
100%.
been to an IMAX. Well, not been to an
Have you
IMAX
not?
for a long time in the UK.
I think the last
we
thing
tried
I
to
saw
do
on-
Nope, but we didn't make it.
I think the last thing I saw on IMAX was Tenet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
in,
like
in
that,
the in the
did you?
depths of COVID. No, I didn't. Well, yeah, I didn't think Tenet was great, but yeah, in the depths of COVID, the movie to save cinema that actually probably did more damage than good.
more confusing.
Yeah. Oh my! Don't even get me started.
What's this?
It's a movie.
No!
Oh, I liked it.
No!
Can I say something?
No!
I don't get it.
What don't you get about it?
We thought it would be a good time, given like we are, 11 days away from 2023, to do an AMA episode, or in other words, Ask Me Anything episode, where we get some of your questions. We got some of your hot takes as well, which was interesting. Some like a bit of venting around very specific niche subjects that I really can't.
Niche venting.
I don't even know, like, we'll talk about it. And yeah, like give that final scene team the chance to open up a little bit.
Our right to reply.
Not any of Ben's vents.
All
Yeah,
of the
don't do that.
questions are, quite friendly. So thank you for that.
Except for one.
Except for, one has a couple of layers that we can unpack. But the caveat here is that I'm the only one that knows the questions. So Ben and Simon will be reacting to the
Yeah, we're-
questions live with you guys.
Coming into this blind, so we'll see what we've got.
Blind. So should we start?
Go on then.
Let's
You
do
guys
it.
ready? Question number 1 for Ben.
Okay.
Will Ben watch Rings of Power season 2?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Of course he will. He's such
Yeah.
a glutton for punishment.
Do you know what?
Watch
Yeah.
it just so he can complain about it on this podcast. This podcast is just a complain fest for Ben.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're actually doing therapy for Ben, mainly. That's what this is.
Yeah, I mean, you've got me banged to rights there. I definitely will watch Rings of Power season 2, and I'll hate every second of
He's
it.
going to watch it just to check if he hates it as much as he thought he would. And then he'll let us all know about it.
That is the complaint lounge that we have over here.
Well, exactly. Listen, someone has to watch it,
It's true.
and it's going to be me.
Has it been renewed for a second season?
And they've already recast a load of it as well. Like,
Really?
yeah,
How
there's
much you already know about it?
I know, and it's a shame because actually it is annoying because one of the actors who was genuinely quite good in the first season, something to be positive, has now been recast as someone else. So that's annoying.
That's awful they're
Yeah.
doing that.
What, you mean they become a different character in the same program?
Same
Actor.
character, different actors going to be playing them for some reason.
I was already
Don't know
super
why.
confused. Now actually, I don't think I'm gonna watch season 2. But
Don't.
we'll see.
I
Yeah.
will watch it. I will take this bullet for the podcast and I will watch it. And for that
Good.
listener as well. You don't
Good.
need to watch it. I'll give you
Okay.
everything you need.
Okay, there you go. You have your
Looking forward to
answer.
that.
What's more exciting, Avatar 2 or the World Cup?
Well, I watched the highlights of the World Cup and it looked pretty exciting to me. So it's got to be the
I
World
saw
Cup.
the final. It was pretty. It was a pretty.
I wish
pretty
I'd
great
watched it in the
game.
end.
Very impressive.
I would say sitting in a dark room is probably more exciting than Avatar 2. So definitely the World Cup final.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Next question. How do I encourage myself to watch more films next year? This is something that I've been struggling with.
great question.
Yeah, this is something that I've been struggling with, especially like we talked about this in a different episode. Like during the winter, as
We
you
should
said,
have
like
force yourself, I don't think.
I think she's saying encouraging.
Yeah.
So it's more like she's forcing herself. But I find myself being like, oh yeah, I wish I could go to the cinema as opposed to watch this trash. Even though like she's not talking about like films in the cinema, but I think that's what she's referring to. Like
you know
more
what?
quality. I think she's referring to more quality films as opposed to trashy. You
One
know?
thing I like is, I don't know if this is going to sound like quite a wanky answer, but I always like enjoy things in a different way when someone's recommended them to me rather than when I've just found them myself.
Oh, yeah.
Because somehow there's more meaning behind it. So like if you can get people you know and like to recommend you something that you wouldn't normally watch, it kind of gives you a bit of a mission to go and watch it. And then you kind of appreciate it in a different way. And I find that with music as well.
I would say as well, one thing that I found this year, it's not something I've ever used to really do. There's something quite nice as well about going to the cinema on your own. It's quite like,
I love that.
it's an experience that I didn't really do. Like I'd always go to the cinema with friends or with my girlfriend and stuff. But a couple of times this year I've gone on my own to see like everything everywhere all at once. I went and saw on my own. And sometimes it is quite nice to just like go by yourself and like just kind of blend into the crowd a little bit. Like I found it really enjoyable.
I would say there is something to be said about like crossing like things off your list in a way. And I'm not saying like you should see this as a chore, but maybe like instead of having this master like movie watch list where you have like 1,000 films, you have like a smaller list that are more like they have a theme, like, comedy, like self-care, whatever it might be, mental health. And then they're quite smaller, and then you go through them, and once you watch a film, you kind of cross it off the list, which is more like makes it more realistic in a way. But what I'm gonna do next year, because I know that I haven't watched nearly as many films as I did, the year before, is to almost, I know it's gonna sound boring, but I'm a big planner. So like some sort of like appointment viewing, where it's like Mondays are movie night, and just kind of like schedule that in. We record the podcast every Wednesday. Well, now every Monday. So we have that in, and I feel like you give, yourself consistency in that way. And I think that's something to, be.
I would never do that with films. Like, that's not, to me, that's not fun. But for
You
film,
don't have to, you wouldn't force yourself. But I feel like sometimes you tend to, like, you can still watch a film
I would
on
do
Monday.
something like that for like exercise or stuff that isn't something I'd necessarily like just do on a whim. Whereas a film is like a treat. So I'm just like, wherever I can slot it in or something, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't treat it like a kind of like, you must have to do it on a Monday evening or something.
No, it's not a must.
Or you're making space for it, I suppose.
Yeah, you're making space for it. Yeah. Like, it's not like I'm gonna punish myself if I don't go to if I don't watch a film that day. But
I also think as well, like, obviously we do this podcast, so we bring movies to one another that we then go and watch, and we get to talk about them. Simon and I used to work with a guy who does a monthly movie club. And actually,
nice.
That's probably a good idea, something to do as well. That like if you have a couple
That's
of
great.
friends that you connect over movies, what it might actually, to get yourselves watching more films, is to just say, okay, maybe why not once a month? We say like the last Thursday of every month, we get together and like we all sit down and watch a movie suggested by,
That's cool.
one of the group. And it's a nice way to do it. It
Watching
gets you
films with
together.
friends is amazing.
Yeah, and like you can have a couple of drinks and then you can like chat about it as well.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, I think we all love doing this because we like chatting, like we don't just like watching movies, we like chatting about movies as well.
yeah.
And so that's another big thing to be able to do. And that will actively encourage you to watch more films and be able to say, think of suggestions and be like, and really look forward to that. It's something
Love
you can
that.
try.
Question number 4. What rating sites do you tend to trust? IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, etc.
IMDb is my go-to. I don't really go to Rotten Tomatoes, even though that seems to be the one that a lot of people go for. But also, I would say at the end of the day, if I really want to see a film, I don't really care what any of them say. I don't care if something's like certified fresh or it's not. If I'm really keen to see something, I'll just go and see it anyway. So IMDb is probably my go-to. But again, it's not my gospel for everything. What do you say?
Just friends, I think.
IMDb, yes, I trust it more compared to Rotten Tomatoes. Even though with RT, what's interesting is the discrepancy of like RT that has as how like people refer to it. It's interesting to see the discrepancy sometimes between like how critics are, rating a film and how like what the audience score is. So like Zack Snyder films have like a 17% like
I do find
Metacritic. Like
it's fun to read
score.
that after watching a film to see if you agreed with the critics. I find that quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
reverse.
even though I think it's rare that you're gonna find like one track mind when it comes to, I don't know, like movie perception. But I think like with films like Zack Snyder's films or people that are extremely passionate about a specific universe, for example, you see like 98% like audience score, and then you like have like 17% critic score, which shows a kind of discrepancy.
I
So
will
find that
say
interesting.
Rotten Tomatoes is good for like a funny, like outside the box review. Like if you
Yes.
find like some of the worst rated movies on IMDb, or even a movie that you want to watch, it is quite funny going through them because you'll get some people who will absolutely savage films,
Right.
and you can get some good one-line quotes out of it.
Yeah, but the site that more accurately like app I tend to go to is Letterboxd, because I find that to be the more interesting and like funny one. Actually, it's an app which is basically like it's a social network of movie people, and it has like I think it grabs its database from IMDb, but then and I think you can get a rating from 1 to 5 as opposed to 10. But then what's interesting is like the reviews are Tumblr like. It's a super eccentric like cinephile to like the Timothy Chalamet like fandom.
Timothy Chalamet.
What's his name?
Chalamet.
Chalamet. Oh, Chalamet. Okay. Sorry, Timothy. Sorry. So Question number 5. What has been your favorite foreign film and why? If you have one.
Oh, that's a good question.
I really loved Another Round from
Yes.
2 years ago, and The Hunt, which is from the same director, both starring Mads Mikkelsen, directed by Thomas Vinterberg. And I realized that I really love, I think I really love Scandinavian cinema. Like anything that I've seen, it just speaks to me. It's my kind of humor. It's my kind of like approach to life in a way. So yeah, these are the 2 films that have really stood out to me in terms of European cinema in particular.
I mean, for pure like action and craziness, The Raid is
Oh my God,
awesome.
yes.
If you haven't seen
Yeah.
The Raid, go and watch it. It's like, yeah, it's just insane.
Battle Royale.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
Akira. I'll throw Akira into the mix to get
Yes.
some anime in there, because yeah, I mean, Akira is just incredible and has. I mean, considering we saw Nope this year, like you know, you watch the motorbike slide straight out of Akira. Yeah, which who knows? Maybe Jordan Peele will
Yeah.
remake one day. Yeah,
One thing I was thinking about is, have you seen a German film called Das Experiment?
no,
I know The Wall.
Where it's about this psychologist
same-
guy that
Yeah.
does an experiment where he makes a pretend prison and locks a load of people up in the prison, and then it all goes wrong.
I know The Wall, which is again German film, which is about a teacher who I don't know, does an experiment on his students. But that's a different film.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Okay.
Another one I really enjoyed, which I was really pleased that I got my mum to watch, was Downfall, Second World War film, but it's based on Hitler's perspective from his bunker in the last hours or days of the Second World War ending. And I thought that was excellent. I really recommend that.
I would also throw into, I mean, listen, it's very very well known, and I think it won a couple of Oscars, but Pan's Labyrinth as well is
Yes.
fantastic. Would highly
it.
recommend. I just love most Guillermo del Toro films, so I would recommend Pan's
Wow,
Labyrinth
it's
as well.
incredible in that film as well. If you could pick one streaming service, which one would it be and why?
BritBox. So I can watch Lovejoy. I don't know, loads of things that I seem to want to watch are on HBO. So maybe I should
Now
do
Now
that.
TV.
Now TV, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I like Now TV. I don't like the fact that you have to get it in 2 separate packages. So like you have the movies and then you have the TV in a different one.
but this
That's
is
a bit
the dream.
annoying.
You
I
can
mean,
have-
if this
you
is
can
the
have
dream
it.
and I
You
can
can
have
have
it
it.
all, then it would probably
That's
be
true.
Now TV.
have
If
it
you
in
would-
the garage.
If you were to pay for both of them, would it be like what, 30
I
quid
do
per
pay
month
for
or something?
both of them, Sophie.
You
course he
do. I
does.
thought you were paying for
Yeah.
the TV one. Okay.
I pay for the TV and the movies.
Ben's
yeah.
a high roller.
How much is it per
I'm not.
month? Okay. I want to hear you fight over the worst Nolan film.
Oh, that's a hard question. I think worst is the wrong word to use. I don't necessarily know if Nolan's made it like a terrible film. I would probably say Tenet, just because it Icarus, you know, he flew a little bit too close to the sun and it just didn't really work out. I know, so you haven't seen Tenet, but yeah, it was just, I mean, any film where I feel like it's in English and I need to have the subtitles on to be able to understand half of what is going on, like the sound mix. I know it was supposedly intentional, but the sound mixing on it is horrendous. Like half
Awful.
the time you can't hear the dialogue.
Yeah.
And yeah, the story is a little bit, it's a bit all over the place. Pats is great. John
Yeah.
David Washington is really good. But Kenneth
But
Branagh
they
is
are
the
a bit
bad
of a waste.
guy.
I feel like
and-
they're wasted.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Robert Pattinson feels like it just feels like he's doing like a Bond audition or something. Like he's kind of like he's putting it on his resume so he can
Yeah.
give it to someone. But yeah, I would probably say Tenet.
We will not fight over this one because I agree.
You agree?
Yeah, I think I think the actors are wasted. I think what Kenneth Branagh is doing is ridiculous, like a parody of a character or something.
His weird Vladimir Putin character.
Yeah, and then, I'm mad at Nolan for what he did to Elizabeth Debicki, like, and her character. Just another waste of like a lackluster like female character that just goes nowhere.
Well, he historically has trouble.
But I
writing
feel like
female
that is the
characters.
cherry on top with what he did there. And I agree with you, like the audio is just like it's just impossible
Yeah.
to
Some of it is genuinely indecipherable.
I can't believe it passed the like who like Nolan. I mean, I guess he's the final like approver. Like, did he literally watch the film, the final cut, and he was like, "Yeah, that passes the mark.
He wrote the script.
Maybe he wants to piss his parents off. So like, I couldn't hear a bloody thing in that film. I turned it up.
What would you say, sorry, of the Nolan films you've
Well,
seen?
I haven't really seen a bad one, but probably my least favorite one was Batman Begins. But I mean, I loved Inception. I loved The Dark Knight. Memento was a early film that I thought was really creative. Like
You love
doing it in
Interstellar
reverse.
as well.
I found that really moving.
It was a precursor to Tenet.
I was
of
quite
like,
hungover though. So
Well,
quite
there you
tearful.
go. Rewatch it. It was a precursor to what Tenet did, where it's almost like trying to be too clever.
Yeah,
And like,
I mean, I
it's-
didn't really fully understand it, but I just let it wash over me, and I
Yeah, I
thought
did
it
love
was
it.
good feelings.
But I didn't
Yeah.
get it fully, 100%. Like I thought it was very confusing at times.
No, and maybe you're not supposed to,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Yeah.
But maybe it was Jessica Chastain as again, McConaughey were pretty like well written, like the characters
Yeah.
anyway. So maybe that helped.
And
You
were at
obviously
the.
have to suspend your disbelief to make that film
And
work.
Simon's going to love this. I'm going to pat him on the knee. That was at the height of the McConaissance.
Oh,
so,
that's true.
Of the what?
the McConaissance.
Peak Matthew.
Oh, what, like Dallas Buyers
His
Club?
renaissance. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
it
was
was
when he
very
was
That's my
like
similar.
favourite.
he was shit.
Was
hot
he in
at that
Magic
point.
Mike as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great film. So is
Magic
Dallas Buyers
Magic
Club.
Mike and Mud and Lincoln Lawyer was the start of the McConaissance.
Oh, I like
And
Lincoln
then
Lawyer, yeah.
We get to Dallas
What?
Buyers Club, Interstellar.
Just forgot
Listen,
about
we're
that
at the
film.
start. We're at the start of the Frey Surgeons as well. Brendan Fraser's about
Is
to
that,
have
wait,
it now.
wait, was that guy, was he like a rom-com guy or something?
Yeah,
And he reinvented
he was
himself?
like, what's that really famous one that he's in? Oh God, where his
Was he
like,
sort
his
of a
line is
lovable rogue rom-com dude or whatever? And then
a
10
bit like
ways to-
sleazy, kind of
cheesy.
but lovable. Yeah, like isn't it his line?
Kate
Is
Hudson.
it Dazed and Confused where he's like,
As well.
That's what I love about college girls. Like I get older, they say the same age, and you're like, Ugh.
Yeah, it's problematic to say the least. But
yeah, very much so. But he really like rebranded himself.
I
And
never
then he-
was his rom-com film. I feel like I went straight to his serious, like, I don't know.
Then he made that horrendous Oscar speech. Oh my god!
What did he say?
His whole premise of his speech was that his hero is him in 10 years' time. He's like, my hero's me in 10 years' time, and he just went on and on and on while wearing a white suit. It was just
Yeah, he's a character. That's
he's
for
an
sure.
interesting guy.
Yeah. He also tried to run for Texas, like become a
really
yeah,
like a politician.
yeah, like
Wow.
what's the
Oh,
equivalent? Not senator. What's the equivalent?
Like
of
a
that?
governor.
Like a governor, but then
Wow, I didn't
but then
know
he
that.
had to pull out because he was grilled in an interview. He didn't know anything about Texan laws, so it was like it was interesting. We had a moment
Classic
there. Yeah, it was
McConaughey.
classic.
Couldn't touch the governor.
Okay, how do I convince my boyfriend to come watch Barbie with me next year?
Oh, that's a good question.
You've got to do a double bill with Oppenheimer.
Yes. Yeah, do.
As
Man.
if I'll go watch Oppenheimer with you if you come and watch Barbie with
Because
me.
boys
Yeah.
like bomb films and girls like Barbie films.
I'll go out on a limb to say that her boyfriend probably is dying to watch Oppenheimer.
I thought you were going to say her boyfriend's dying to watch Barbie. But you never know. He could be.
Apparently no, if she's asking for advice.
I think-
she's obviously not excited.
I think the thing to do would, because it's kind of a tough one with this Barbie, because we watched the trailer before this as well. It doesn't really
There's
give.
constant topless scenes in it.
Yeah.
It's just relentless.
Like the trailer, maybe we'll get different trailers closer to it, but it doesn't give away much of what's going to happen. And a lot of people are pinning what they think the movie's going to be about some of those scenes of the camera footage of Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie on Venice Beach, where he's like screaming really high pitched and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
But what I would say is go and watch some other Greta Gerwig and some Noah Baumbach films, and that will give you a bit more insight into it, I think, because if you go and watch something like Lady Bird, and then you can come into it saying, okay, well, I've watched these other films, I've really enjoyed them, hopefully, and which is what it seems to be, Greta Gerwig will be able to put her spin on it. And so you're not going to see a Barbie film, you're going to see a Greta Gerwig Barbie film, which could be more interesting, I would say.
I don't trust what Margot Robbie is doing these days. Like after Amsterdam, which is supposed like I don't know if you guys heard of like it's been panned by like critics, like the David O. Russell film.
Yeah, it's already on Disney Plus. It's gone
already on
straight to
Disney-
streaming. Yeah,
it's straight to streaming.
it's like straight to DVD now. Straight to streaming is like the new straight to DVD.
Straight to Daily Motion.
Straight to
Direct to Daily Motion.
Direct to Vimeo.
I've worked on a few of those, Ben.
I love the next question. Should filmmakers be scared of AI generating complete narrative films one day?
Well, I mean, it can't get much worse than some of the guff that comes out
Yeah.
already. So maybe it'll help spark some new inspiration.
The Netflix AI generated film.
Yeah.
It looks like it.
I think if you're a good enough filmmaker, you would like a sports person, you'd back yourself and say, I am creative enough and I have stories that I know want to be told, and you would just back yourself and do that. Like I'd say if you ask Christopher Nolan, he'd be like, fuck no. Computer's not gonna be able to make Oppenheimer or Inception. Even if they could, truly creative storytellers will believe that is there to be done.
Yeah.
It's like in the olden days when
Play some old timey music, Simon.
when it wasn't possible to record music, so music could only exist, well, first as sheet music and then as live performance. And then people that played music were like, well, we're so scared because now you can record music. It's going to kill live, and then of course it's turned it into something else and then something else again. So things will just keep innovating.
Yeah, I'm being very hopeful because I do think that ultimately even casual, moviegoers or like movie fans do appreciate quality. Like Netflix saw, it's a really good example. They saw that when they started, pumping out so many trashy films. It was the very first time that they lost subscribers for the quarter. They were like, we need to pull back. So now they've started like going back to quality. Like ultimately, like people are gonna watch so many trashy films. And I do think there is a space for, contrary to a popular belief, I do think that right now is the best time to actually be a filmmaker because of I guess you can think about the internet and all the different ways you can crowdfund your film and the connections you can make online. I don't think that was possible, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, like everyone's got amazing phone cameras in their pockets. It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
possible to-
Yeah, you can make it. Yeah, it's like what Son Baker, like he did, his first film on 5K budget with an iPhone 5, So, Simon, why haven't you watched Lord of the Rings and how do you live with it?
There we go. And
I
when
live-
will
I
you
live
watch
very,
Rings
very
of
well.
Power?
People are having opinions about Lord of the Rings.
It's a long film.
It's a
There's
trilogy.
a number of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of elven content in there, which I'd really struggle with. Maybe I should watch it. I should probably watch Star Wars as well while I'm at it.
You haven't watched any Star Wars?
I think I've watched a bit of Return of the Jedi.
Good Lord.
Okay.
Knowing you've probably only watched like the Ewok bits.
I watched a forest fight scene.
Yep, you've watched
Yeah.
the Ewok
Yeah,
bits.
yeah,
I
yeah.
knew.
I don't know.
Of course that would put you off Star Wars.
I don't know. I find like all that elven stuff hard to get into.
I would encourage you at least just to watch the first Lord of the Rings.
I
film.
found that Russian version.
Yes.
I'm going to watch that first. Okay, I'm going to properly watch it. I found this really because of that Adam Curtis documentary I was on about. They've unearthed this really hilarious like Soviet version of Lord of the Rings from like 30 years ago. Or at least it looks like it was 30 years ago. Maybe it's more. So maybe I'll watch that and then watch the real one
Okay.
and compare
At
it.
least watch Fellowship. You don't need to watch the Hobbit trilogy because it's just useless.
For all three of you, what movies are you most excited for in 2023? Mine is Oppenheimer.
Magic Mike.
Oh my!
The Last Dance.
Okay, I'll
That's
take
how
that
it's
out.
called.
Blatantly not the Last Dance.
The Last Dance. Salma Hayek is in that one as well. Exciting.
Hot.
Yeah. That is correct.
Any others? Is that the only one you're excited for?
Well, yeah, I'm really excited about Oppenheimer. I do hope to see something different from Nolan, even though, yeah, as we said, from the sounds and the looks of it so far, it looks very Nolan-like, but I do want to see something different from him. I'm really excited to see The Killers of the Flower Moon, which is a new Martin Scorsese film that's coming out with DiCaprio next year on Apple TV Plus.
Is that out next year?
Yeah, Brendan Fraser is in it as well.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like a super-
You love Brendan
we
Fraser.
love Brendan Fraser.
We all love Brendan
This
Fraser.
is our dream guest. Like, this is our dream podcast
my
guest.
God.
We would lose it if,
I just love a hug from him.
Yeah.
He just seems like such
Yeah.
a nice guy.
So I'm really excited about that. Then the new Ari Aster film is coming out, which I'm really excited about. I know, I don't think, I know, Ben, you're not a horror fan. Like, he's done Hereditary and Midsommar. I don't know, if we're talking like bigger like films, like Creed 3, I'm really excited about with Jonathan Majors. Should be really good. And then We also the trailer of Cocaine Bear a few weeks ago.
I saw Cocaine Bear on the list,
That's
for
to
movies
be-
next year.
from Elizabeth Banks, which I didn't know she was directing this one. So that's
Isn't she in it as well?
but I didn't know she was directing it as
Yeah.
well, which is funny. And I mean, the only other one that I have put down was the Killer, which is the new David Fincher film with Michael Fassbender. He's finally back.
Oh,
He took a
nice.
very long break. So it's about an assassin who kind of creates a conscience, and he's really dealing with. It's a very internal struggle film. Again, how he keeps getting hitman jobs, but he's starting to feel bad about what he's doing. So he goes on a quest to kind of undo what he's trying to do. It's like Barry.
I was just going to say it sounds like Barry.
It sounds like Barry, but
Have you
like
heard of Barry?
In Wales.
No,
Bill Hader.
it's a TV show about a hitman who decides he doesn't want to be a hitman anymore and wants to become an actor. So
Exactly the same as Nuns on the Run.
he joins an Amdram group that's run by Henry Winkler. And it's just about him trying to become an actor, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm guessing with Fincher, we're gonna see the nihilistic version of that.
It sounds like Barry mixed with The Counselor. Remember The Counselor? That Fassbender film,
Yeah,
the Ridley Scott film.
Yeah.
Ben, there's Mission Impossible 7.
That's on my list. Yeah, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is on
Dead
my
Reckoning
list.
Part 1. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What else have I got? John Wick 4.
Nice.
I love John Wick. I have to throw a Marvel one in there because there's a few next year. I'll give it to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because I feel like James
it
Gunn will
James
probably
Gunn?
go
Yeah,
out on a bang.
The
now
Hunger
that he's-
Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Oh God,
No one
fuck
cares.
that. No,
Can you
nobody
wait?
cares. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Can't wait for that. I think that's going to be great. The first
Same.
part of that's going to be good. Indiana Jones, I'll probably see, but I mean, I think I said this before the podcast, like The Dial of Destiny is such a crap title. I almost hope they change it in the same way that they changed Sonic after all the fan backlash.
Dial
online.
of the Ringtone.
Yeah, honestly, The Ringtone of Despair could be another crap title.
Oh my god.
And then a curveball one, which the trailer has just come out. It comes out in March. Is the new Zach Braff movie, A Good Person, which is Florence Pugh, Morgan Freeman. I just really like the two movies Zach Braff has made. I think Garden State is a great film.
I've not seen that for ages.
Yeah,
I love
Garden
that
State is
film.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember the last one. Last one he made, I remember I tweeted him about it and he retweeted me and I was like, yes, he knows.
Oh wow. Okay.
And yeah, I love the music. He's a bit like Edgar Wright. Like the soundtracks of both the films that he's made are incredible. So
Okay, a few more questions. I mean, we have so many questions, but we'll try to go through as many as we can. What's your process while watching a movie? How do you deconstruct a scene? The second question is about like how do you it's about movie criticism and like if someone were to tell you what did you make of that scene, like how do you break it down? I guess some people take different angles. I think me and you, Simon, have talked about like the emotion that it elicits from you, and that is how you kind of deconstruct the scene, as in like it made me feel this, therefore I loved it or hated
Yeah.
it. Other people would go about the dialogue or the score or more technical aspect, but I think we're more on the emotional side of
It's like how the concoction of the script, the cinematography, and the music have manipulated your emotions.
and context as well. I always think context is really important with movies and breaking down scenes as well. Of like even just like when the movie was made, like what was like we talked about it a lot. I think in our first ever episode about like 12 Angry Men a bit and like the context of that film. I think that's quite an important thing to consider as well.
Yeah.
It's like with crime, isn't it? Where say there's been a crime committed 30 years ago, that person is tried using the laws of the day, not the laws of now.
Yeah.
So it's in context.
But yeah, like because I have people at times ask me, how do you break down a final scene? And to me, it always goes back to the emotion that I got out of that scene, and then I tell the story behind the emotion. And sometimes it's a personal story. Like I remember when I was the father, and like that final scene reminded me of my grandpa because he was suffering from the same disease. So it was like, how do you tell that story and like bring it back to your own experience very often? And like to the first question of what's your process while watching a movie, I'm not saying it's a process, but I do find I've always been very actor driven. Like I would always like watch like what the actors are trying to do versus the director, or like, the colors in a scene. So I always find it very interesting how actors have evolved over time. So like with Joaquin Phoenix right now, like I'm very interested in like how he has evolved from Gladiator to now. And like I think I'm gonna catch those things. And I'm like, oh, he used to do that in that film, like 10 years ago. Like which is again, it's very unconscious. I'm not trying to I'm not doing it consciously, but it's interesting. Something that I find myself doing. Are you planning on doing any final scenes for comedy movies?
We could do like a dark comedy, maybe.
Yeah.
I think there may be a bit more. There's a bit more.
We
maybe
should do
depth.
Legally Blonde.
Oh,
Because
I'd
Legally
like to
Blonde
do.
3 is coming.
I really enjoyed that film. Also, the Death of Stalin, which is I think a great example of a very dark, very funny film.
I'd like to do In Bruges again. Very dark, but a very funny film. I think
Nice.
possibly one of my favorite films of all time.
Okay, let's do some more comedy movies next year.
Yeah, that's my New Year's resolution. That we do more comedy movies.
Yeah, but there's not that many of them. I find that they're the thinnest on the ground. Like comedy
Truly
movies
funny.
that you love,
Yeah, agreed.
there's probably less than 10 for me that I'd go back to a lot.
Okay, one last question, then we're gonna go into some quick round, like hot takes.
Okay.
Oh wow, quick fire.
On a mince pie, cream, ice cream, or custard?
None in the
Custard.
bin. Wow, that was fast. You go custard.
I've never had it, but I'd like to have it as custard.
Oh, okay. So you like mince pies?
Not really, but I love custard.
Hot takes.
Okay.
Number 1, film is a medium in decline. Its greatest achievements have already been made.
Imagine our grandparents, right? It was kind of possible for them to see pretty much every film that had been made during their lifetime, really, like the big ones.
Yeah.
But now we're at a point where there's just so much film to watch that's been made. You can't really be on top of it all. And all the low-hanging fruit's been plucked, hasn't it? Like all of the... If you break down the storylines of most Hollywood films, there's about 5 of them. So it's just like variations on a theme. So it's harder to innovate, for sure. But as long as people are still reflecting our lives back at us in a creative way, then there'll still be interesting films to watch.
Right, yeah. So you're talking more like both on a technical and also cultural perspective, because I think on a technical perspective, I'm struggling to see, like I haven't seen anything super innovative in the past, like decade or so. But culturally and creatively and from a narrative perspective, you have Everything Everywhere All at Once. You have Get Out. You have films that have contributed to society in a like vast way. So I don't think it's as a medium, its achievements is behind it. But yeah, like obviously I'm not like, I don't work on the technical side of things, but I haven't seen anything super, like when was the last time that people like moviegoers were like, oh my God, this is the future? I think probably Avatar was the last time that people said that.
And even then, 3D is kind of not necessarily
Right, by the
dying a
time
death,
if
but like
I-
3D is just not important.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Napoleon Dynamite is terrible and not funny.
Yeah, agreed.
That's one of my
I don't find Napoleon
favourites.
Dynamite funny at all. I just don't get it.
It's incredible.
Oh wow, you're gonna fight over this? Because I have
love
no
that film.
thoughts. I feel like
I watch that film every year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one of your comedy films to watch then.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
Simon, this is for you. Most movies are too goddamn long, and no, I haven't seen Avatar 2 yet.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, even I would agree with that. Movies
Yeah,
are getting
like-
too long.
The ending of Schindler's List takes away from the rest of the film. The ending is very sentimental, like
Yeah.
ha ha ha, like they live happily ever after kind of ending. When the film has been very, just I don't know, nihilistic.
Yeah.
It just takes a departure from the entire narrative, which is.
Fair enough.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
I agree with
remember
that.
that final
Yeah.
scene. It was kind of daunting to see that. The last hot take, we have a few, but that's the one that we're gonna go through. My hot take is that you guys are an underrated movie podcast because for once you're not pretentious. That's interesting.
I find that insulting. I'm incredibly pretentious.
If that's a word on the street that we're not pretentious, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take not pretentious.
Yeah.
Can we put that as our quote when on the
Not
podcast is like
pretentious.
5 stars, not pretentious.
Heartwarming and not pretentious.
A feel good romp, not pretentious at all.
And the very final question that I have no thoughts around, because I don't think I've watched any of his films, but I know his reputation. You might know more. Who keeps letting Steven Seagal make movies?
Is Steven Seagal still making movies?
Apparently. We need to check.
I don't know.
I mean, nothing's really going to touch Under Siege 1 and 2.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't actually know he was still making movies. I mean,
There is a scene in the film that he's in called The Glimmer Man,
Right.
where he murders about 5 Chinese men with a credit card through the neck.
Oh my
He
God.
swipes it and they all die.
I did see a thing the other day. I was like, I was watching a video of like the worst ever SNL hosts, and he was on the list because he was in like one sketch. He couldn't remember any of his lines, and basically all he had to do in the sketch was throw people through windows.
Dude, me and my friends got so obsessed with Steven Seagal when we were about 17. He formed a band. Don't know if you ever knew this. He started a band like around that time, and we went to see him play live in Portsmouth near
What?
Brighton,
Oh my
where we
God.
lived. And he was in a band. I think it's called Thunderbox.
What a fantastic
And,
name! That sounds like a what's the word? Like a double entendre for like someone who farts
I
all
think
the
it
time.
means a toilet in Australia, doesn't it? I can't remember.
Thunderbox.
Anyway,
Yeah, maybe.
I'm pretty sure that's the name of the band anyway. So he played this pub venue. So imagine we're used to seeing Steven Seagal in these blockbusters. And there he was in like a pub in Portsmouth with
my
his like
God.
bluesy sort of stuff. And he'd put on a lot of weight. And during the performance, someone started a chant of who ate all the pies. And it was really bad. Like you could hear it across the whole room. We didn't do
God.
that. But yeah, it was like, I don't know, I felt a bit bad for him really.
Isn't he
We
friends?
didn't go to take the piss. We went because it was like a bit of fun.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I think it was because he was so clearly taking himself so seriously. People were like, well, I'm not having that.
Well, yeah. I
And,
think that's the
didn't let him- didn't
that's
let him
his
have
whole
it.
thing, isn't it? That he just takes
Yeah.
himself incredibly
Because
seriously.
wasn't that show where he became a sheriff? And because he claims he has all these martial art capabilities, but actually he probably doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he has one that. Yeah, whatever. I can't remember what the name of it is. But yeah, he says he's a master in something, but really it's kind of like a lesser form of like judo. Like it's kind of like it's all just a bit showy.
Yeah.
What a weird.
He's a
weird
hilarious
guy.
man. My
Okay.
secret Steven Seagal fetish.
Coming out of nowhere. We had people ask us about specific films and specific shows, but we're not going to go into that because we had at least 3 people ask us about the Banshees of Inisherin now, and I'm not
Yes,
even going to go
okay,
to
I'm
Yes,
going to
I'll
watch
watch
this, I'm going
it.
to watch
Yes,
this.
next year I will watch it. It's coming out on Disney Plus,
Tomorrow.
December. Tomorrow?
December 21st. Yeah.
I thought it was 23rd. Okay, 21st.
Uh,
So Tuesday. No, Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday. Okay, we will come back with a reaction
Yeah.
and review.
I'll
in the
be
new
ready
year.
for Colin Farrell to win his Oscar. Don't worry.
Yes. And I think that's it. That's the show.
That's the year.
That's the
Fucking
year.
hell.
We will be back next year with more final scenes, more AMAs, more podcast guests, more hot takes, more references of problematic films, as I would like to say, as you hear me say, and so much more. Please send us your suggestions on Instagram or on our website. What is it that you want to see from us next year? We hope you'll get some rest, enjoy the holidays, eat and drink loads. Thank you so much for your support this year. It has meant the world to us. We can't wait to find more ways to engage with you next year and kind of increase that I really love what we did today. I thought it was interesting to get people like, what are they thinking about? Like I never thought we would get a question about Steven Seagal, but here we are. Get in the Christmas spirit, share the podcast episode with a friend or on your stories. And hey, if someone asks for a podcast recommendation, the Christmas table, you know the right answer. We will be back in the new year with Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. Happy New Year's, everyone. We love you all. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.
Oh, look, a message from our sponsor.
Did you like it? Did you like that?
Did I like it? I loved it.
I had no idea you could milk a cat.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Good morning!
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.